Hey. Hi, everybody. It is Latasha Martin from Von Swy Solutions. I just want to make sure that you can see what I can see before I jump into our virtual solutions for small businesses and nonprofit organizations. One of the things that I recognized yesterday as I was streaming our service and a couple of other services was that um, the Wi-Fi and the not the Wi-Fi, but the capacity of people being able to stay online with a good stream, it was something that was lacking a bit. And so I will talk about that towards the end of our stream today or this video today. But our primary focus for today's message is pre-event planning or project planning. So last week, Friday, I talked a little bit more about just the idea of different things you should consider. So today, our focus is going to be on the planning check sheet, meaning the pre-event organizational things that we're going to have and our growth tools. So I'm going to share my screen, and as I go through this session today, if you do want to share with others, let me double check to make sure you can see what I can see. But if you want to share with others, this is a great live for people who don't have a clear strategy behind their virtual solutions. Either they're a brick and mortar that's trying to go virtual, or they are a church that's trying to support something that's virtual. And so the information that I'm providing today is really what can you do to make sure that you're getting organized and that you're strategic as you move forward. The things we're experiencing right now will not be our new normal forever. So are you being intentional with what you're doing with your virtual solutions, or are you still sitting there paralyzed saying, I don't know what I want as my virtual solution? And so again, these are some things you can do around the planning and tools and technology. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Perfect. And what you see right now is my screen on, again, Virtual Solutions Planning Checklist or Check Sheet, your pre-event organization and growth tools. Now, the information that I'm sharing, if you want to have access to all of the virtual tips and strategies and the information that I have, you can go to vonswy.com or Vonswy Solutions, and I'll actually put that spelling over in the chat area. And you can put your information on the top, your name and your email, and you'll get access to the file that has all of the documentation that I've been sharing with on these streams about virtual solutions, whether you're at an early stage or you're somewhere that's more sophisticated, but you picked up some tips. On these calls, we just give high level overviews. If you wanted to schedule time with me one on one, you can do that from my website as well. So let's go through the planning checklist. Again, this is still pre-event and it's saying how do you stay organized and what tools can you have as you grow with your virtual solutions. And honestly, some of the things that I'm sharing with you today can be used whether it's a virtual or a live event. But when you are supporting things virtually from the planning portion to execution, it's really important that you have tools where you can communicate and have clear expectations for everybody that you're asking to be involved. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is roles and responsibilities, and our primary focus for today is the project manager. So what is the project manager? That's a fancy way of saying the overseer of all things virtual and in some situations the hybrid solutions. So they might be the person that's working on creating your project plan itself, and we're going to talk about the tools and communication things you want to have in place. So the first thing or the first role and responsibility for a project manager is to really say, how do we keep everything organized? And using the information from last Friday's session, where you know the type of event you're trying to have, you know who you need, but now you need somebody to put all the pieces together so that you can execute successfully, not just for the live event, but what happens on the back end to make sure that you have a sustainable model. And as you continue to grow, as you bring more people into the mix, you have the resources that can support the plans that you want to push forward. So the first thing is creating, again, a project plan. Now, if you are in the beginning stages of this, when I'm talking about any of the items that we are sharing, we always want to be fiscally responsible. We don't want to jump to paid solutions if there's something free that will work for you for where you are right now. So your first project plan could be something as simple as going into Excel and creating a plan, or you can use a Google form. Now, the difference between Excel and a Google form is if you create a Google form and you store it on Google Drive, it can be a collaboration tool, meaning that everyone can have access to it and you can work on that form at the same time from different locations. One of the warnings when you're using Google tools that are connected to Google Drive is you want to make sure you limit access to who you want to actually put information in those forms, because as they're updating, they can override what someone else is doing. So it's really important that if you select a Google form or a Google tool at all, whether it's Sheets, Word, whatever it is, not Sheets, it's Page, whatever. So, anyways, whatever tool you're using as you're collaborating, it's really important that you remind people of what they can do, what they should change, what they shouldn't change. So again, that's a free tool that you can use, either Excel if you use Microsoft or a Google form. The other thing you want to do is you want to have a way in which people understand what task they're assigned to and what are their responsibilities. So again, if you're one step further than the Excel or Google form, you can shift over to something called Asana. Asana is a project management tool. It's great for collaboration, and they have a free version. It has limited capabilities with the free version, but for most people, the free version is sufficient. Now, Asana is one option, and that is web based, and there's an app for it. Another one that's designed for smaller businesses, not necessarily nonprofits, but it could be used that way, is called Basecamp. So, Basecamp, again, is another project management tool that's web based. The next one that we have on here is Trello, and I forgot about Smartsheets. I should add that in. Smartsheets is another tool that can be used for project management. Now, project management is one piece, but as you begin to have these meetings and you're having conversations, what's going to happen is there's going to be documents that need to be exchanged. And so you're going to need a place where you can do document storage. So some of the things that you want to start earlier than later when it comes to document storage is, again, if you wanted to use the Google ecosystem because you just love Google, you can use Google Drive. Another option is Dropbox, which they have a free version of Dropbox as well as Google Drive. There's another thing if you have larger files called Box. And then if you're still, again, on Microsoft, you can use something as complex or simple as SharePoint. A lot of people don't like SharePoint. The reason I like SharePoint is because there's a checkout feature. So again, as people are updating documents, you can go back to other versions of that document and look at them on SharePoint. And the way that most of the systems work right now, Microsoft has also joined the bandwagon of being cloud-based. So a lot of the tools and documents, I can access a lot of that right from my mobile device. So again, we have Google Drive that can store your documents. We have Dropbox, we have Box, and SharePoint. Those are just a couple. There's probably others that are out there, but those are the ones that I'm recommending. And again, 3 out of the 4 of them are free. SharePoint is a part of a subscription model. So if you have a subscription to Microsoft 365, SharePoint can be available if you have a certain type of scripture with Microsoft, certain type of subscription with Microsoft. So document storage. One of the things that's really important, and I would share that this is still the project manager's responsibility, is that your document storage, you want it to be organized. So if you have certain folders or certain projects, however you decide to organize that information, you want to make sure that people can retrieve that document. And if you didn't have information in front of you, you actually have it organized in a way where you can navigate and tell someone how they could find a certain file. Now, you might be thinking, I've never heard of that before, but organization is really important, because if you start using some of these virtual document storage solutions and then after the fact you want to get organized, it's just unnecessary work. So again, plan SMART in advance, and then as you move forward, you can use these tools. The next thing that is critically important, whether you are a small business or you are a nonprofit organization, whether you are a church or you're a small business, a lot of people are encouraged to use social media, but they use what I call ad hoc social media. There's no strategy behind social media. So they'll go live whenever they want to, or sporadically they'll go live, or they're going live all day. They're doing posts, they're doing lots of cool things. And let's just say that you're one of these people that has thousands and thousands of social media followers. Well, you know what? At any point, any of these platforms could break down or make a decision to say, I'm kicking you out of this for whatever reason. So what I share with people that I work with as a client is that it is so important, even from the beginning, to think of ways that you can always collect people's information. Their email addresses are golden. So if you, let's just say you only had a couple of followers online, but you had a email list of 5,000 people. Well, the 5,000 on your email list is more valuable than having 5,000 followers. Why? Because they've said yes to giving you their emails, which means you're not foreign to them. And that's a group of people that you can market to. And so you might be saying, okay, that sounds great for business, but what about a church? Churches, you still want to have a database of your members that is online. Why? Because a lot of the tools that we've shared with you last week, whether it's Call 'em All where you're doing robocalls, or you're using Zoom, or you're using YouTube Live, or you're using Restream, or any of these other systems, you want to make sure that you're staying connected to people outside of just Sunday morning. So having their email addresses and their names and their phone numbers, that's great to have these databases, but you need to have a place where you can organize this information. So the most popular email growing tool that I find people use often is MailChimp. MailChimp, they have a free version. You go into MailChimp. If right now you have everyone stored as Excel document, you should be able to transition that information into MailChimp, but it is free. It is a free resource. What's really nice about MailChimp, since I've been spending a lot of time in that tool lately, is MailChimp has a lot of tools that can connect you to social media. It can advertise events. It can help you really stay connected to your crowd as you're growing your list. And they've got some really easy, intuitive tools that are right there in the system and software itself, where it can have your branding and it looks like something that's so much more sophisticated than what the tool really is. It's really a great tool to have for collecting emails and communicating to the people that you'd want to market to. Or again, for the church perspective, in the church, you have this email list and you can put information in there where you could have categories, you can have audiences identified inside of MailChimp. So if it's your seniors or your young people and you want to make sure that you're doing targeted emails to these different groups, you can organize that in MailChimp, and it's a great way to stay connected. Even if you have a prayer request list, you can have an audience of people that want prayer, and then it gives you some people that you can either parse out who needs to pray for who can reach out to who, but you have that information in one location. Now, if you wanted to go to a paid option, there's a couple of other ones that you might want to consider. We have an organization called Keep, which used to be Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft used to scare people half to death, but because they wanted to be more competitive to smaller businesses or solopreneurs, or even, like I said, a church, they have a version of Keep where, again, it's a much lower cost, but it has some tools in it too where you can send out emails. You can do appointment reminders. You can do a lot of that information right inside of Keep. The next one is Constant Contact. A lot of people use Constant Contact. Probably I see the Constant Contact logo as much, if not more, than MailChimp. But those are two ways in which you're collecting emails and you're communicating with people who are on your email list. Constant Contact has a free trial, and then they have a monthly subscription. Now, I've talked about a lot of softwares, but this is something that I want you to think about. As you are evaluating software solutions for your business or your nonprofit organization, something that's really important that you keep in mind is that some of these software tools can do multiple things. And if you don't do your homework, you might wind up paying two different fees for something that one solution could have accomplished. So on its own, it might seem expensive. So let's just say that you were looking at something like MailChimp, and MailChimp, you didn't get the free version, you bumped up to a paid version. If MailChimp has some other features in it, that could say, I thought that it was more, but it really wasn't more because it does this and it does that. And that together is still cheaper than me paying two different subscription fees. I know I'm getting a little technical right now. I know that tomorrow I'm hosting a webinar with Nancy Hughes for people who are in the moving space. We're going to take a deeper dive in some of these tools on what makes sense for your organization or nonprofit. But again, I wanted to give you a high level and a disclaimer to say before you go spending, because $10, $20, $5, it all adds up. So before you go spending hundreds of dollars on multiple solutions, you might want to look at what are one or two platforms that can do everything that I needed to do. What I left off the top was Slack. I can't believe I left that off. But anyways, I'll talk about Slack independently. Maybe I'll talk about that Wednesday. The next thing that's really important for small businesses specifically, small business alert, small business alert. is a lot of the other tools that we talk about are great. You might be advertising stuff on Facebook, advertising stuff on Instagram. You're saying, I want to transition my storefront into a virtual solution, but this is the part that's usually missing for most. You don't have an online shopping cart. So what that means is that if you want to sell a product and you don't want to be the constraint, and what I mean by that is you advertise something and people have to call you on the phone for you to process payment before you put it together. If you want to work smarter and not harder, then you need an online shopping cart platform. One of the things that I caution people of is before you jump to one of the most popular ones, which is Shopify, is make sure that the CRM or the client relationship management system that you have selected, it may have an online cart feature inside of it. If it does, then you don't need to go and host your products in another tool like Shopify. So again, if you are selling a digital or a tangible product like lotions or speakers or t-shirts or hats, and you don't have a client relationship manager, then you could use something like Shopify because it does have a client relationship management system inside of it. What I don't know is does it have all of the features that you might need for your business? So again, today's topic was really focusing in on how do you stay organized? What are the roles and responsibilities of the people or the things that you need to consider to stay organized for creating your virtual solutions? Right now, again, I know a lot of people are in reaction mode because of the climate that we're in, but I really, 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 really encourage you to do some homework and come up with a strategy based on the other tips and tools that I've given you. Again, you can have access to all of this information by simply going to VonSwiseSolutions.com. And when you go to VonSwiseSolutions.com, on the top, you put your email and your name. It will take you then to a thank you page where you click on it and you'll have access to all of these documents. And so again, I'll be live again this Wednesday at 11 a.m. I think this Wednesday I am going to talk about Slack because that's one of my favorite collaboration tools that's out there. Love, love, love Slack. Slack is a great tool. And because it's growing so much, it has the ability to connect with other apps. And that's another thing that you want to look for the tools that you select. The tools that I'm talking about are generic across the board, but if your organization or your nonprofit organization is one that just focuses on Windows, well, then you might want to say, well, what's the best solution if we're using Windows? Maybe it's Microsoft, maybe it's Google. If you're a business that works with other businesses, I would encourage you to make the investment into Microsoft 365. Why? Because most businesses use Microsoft Outlook. So it's important that you marry up the tools and the resources that you're using for your virtual solutions to the types of clients that you work with. Again, if you're an organization that everyone uses Apple, then maybe you want to use some tools that are designed towards Apple. So in the beginning, maybe you don't want to use Google Drive, but you're using iCloud. On iCloud, there's interchanges between it's pages and numbers. You can do collaboration on those tools as well if you're in an Apple ecosystem. So again, the key when you're getting organized and you're looking at the role as a project manager is evaluating, what your company is, what your nonprofit is, what your church is, what do you use right now? If it's nothing, then you want to make the investment in the right resources for the goals that you're trying to accomplish. So again, my name is Latasha Martin. You can find me online at VonSwiseSolutions.com, VONSWY Solutions.com, and you'll get more information. Specifically for my business, we talk about career navigation and leadership development, but these are some of the tools that I use with my clients often, just to help them stay organized and to make sure that you're communicating clearly and that your constraint is not that I can't find a document, or your constraint is not that, oh my gosh, I wanted to sell this product and I don't have a way to do it. So I encourage you today to use these tools and to sign up to get more of them. And I will see you on Wednesday. Again, Latasha Martin signing off, and try to have a safe day. Bye-bye.